discussed on the different aspects of successfully launching university satellites, and we have a lot of results basically, and I just put them out here. You probably won't be able to read all of them, but I will highlight maybe the most important ones. So we agreed that there's a huge variety in the university satellite missions, and connected to each of them there's a different set of issues and problems to deal with, but problems related to student participation usually are the similar ones. So that high fluctuations, we have students that complete their courses and are not staying with the project more than half a year or something like that. We have these budgetary constraints, we have launch delays that we cannot avoid, but perhaps we can prepare for them. And especially also this last point is interesting, that we came up with the problem that even educational satellites face the need for a return of investment, basically in terms of the next satellite this satellite has to be built correctly in order for the next satellite to be even being available for funding. So yeah, this is interesting for us. So how to deal with these problems, and you can see a long list of ideas we gathered, but maybe let me just point out the most important ones, maybe. So we thought maybe we could have an education for project managers by UNISEC, like CANSAT has, because we saw that most of those things the project manager has in his hands also already, because he can decide on how many students there are at the time and how they overlap basically in their work. We talked about templates, we talked about documentations, and we talked about small progress reports basically done by every student, such that another student coming afterwards can, you know, basically pick up from where the other one left. We talked about, we talked about the budgetary constraints, and one, for me, very surprising answer was, well, maybe we can rent hardware. When we test satellites and we build engineering models, we usually buy the hardware as well. But why not renting it? Why not renting reaction wheels? Because they're not flying. They will be given back to the company in the end. And this might be an interesting point in the future. We also saw that private companies can help in giving kind contributions, but they will never fund, or they probably will not fund complete missions to educational purposes. It's also interesting with the involvement of other students from other topics, so law, marketing, finances. Maybe they can get something out of the project which the engineering students don't usually. And they also try to avoid it then also. And the collaborations, obviously, but I come to that later also. How to react to launch delays? I mean, we can't avoid them because they're there. We don't have any control of it usually, but we can design our system such that it's accessible, even if it's waiting for the launch, such that new students can work on the software. We can keep on working on the satellite. We still have responsible students and responsible persons whilst waiting for the launch, and the knowledge is not lost, but you can retain the knowledge basically about the system. Well, testing, here it's very short, we talked about it, also not too long, obviously testing. So when we talk about student satellites and why they fail, then usually the answer is because they didn't test the specific aspect of what failed. But a nice idea is, I think, something that is already addressed at UNISEC, is the standardization of test equipment and standardization of test procedures. We talked about common hardware-in-the-loop protocols, basically, so that everybody can hook up their satellite to test simulator, test facility, and test it thoroughly. A very interesting point was the cooperation between universities, because on the one hand, yes, we can save a lot of money, we can save a lot of effort by bundling test equipment and bundling the problems to deal with the ITU, legal issues, launch providers. But there's a big but, because also between the universities we have a collaboration and a competition. And that is contradictory to a certain extent. When we think that lessons learned from another university is everything they learned, then it's probably wrong, because they usually keep something just for them. Oh, yeah, sorry, I need to hurry up. Project planning, it comes and goes with a project manager, and maybe this is one of the aspects that UNISEC could focus on training the project managers how to efficiently plan for a university satellite project, for long-term sustainable project. And we talked a lot about regulatory issues, and we found that there's no single point of contact, for instance, for the ITU. So this is difficult for the universities to negotiate with them, because every university has to do it for themselves, and it would be helpful if there would be somebody that bundles everything like that. Also here, other students can help a lot. So law students might be interested in things like that, which usually technology students are not. And how to deal with failures is also, again, competition and cooperation. Obviously, if you cooperate with somebody, you would tell them, don't do that because it's likely to fail. On the other hand, if you do a competition and somebody else did a mistake and you see it, then you might be likely not to tell him, because, yeah, it's a competition and you have an advantage over the other one. But informal meetings between the collaborating universities are very important, and to discuss those issues. All right, I think that's it. From my point, I would like to thank my discussion group again. It was a really nice discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now